Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Test Tube Plus today. I am Trace. This is episode 4 of 5 on our series of survival. If you aren't familiar with our show, we take a big topic and we break it into a few different episodes, and we're on episode 4. By now, we've talked a lot about survival and what it means and how it's done and how it's changed over time. But what about the future of our survival? Like, what are we gonna do? We're filling up the earth pretty fast. Turns out, we actually can live in a lot of different places that we aren't living currently. The future of our cities, if we do it right, is gonna be super cool. I mean, we're talking about growing biological material as the literal foundation of a whole city. We're gonna get there though, hang on, just bear with me. We can live in a variety of different places. So when you think of deserts, you probably think like brown and dead, it's not great, but we could actually transform the Sahara into a pretty lush desert. NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies laid out a plan to pump desalinated seawater from the coast into the Sahara. And it could use these pipes to irrigate fields of eucalyptus trees. As the trees took root, they would replenish the soil and cause more rainfall, which would then cause even more growth. Because eucalyptus, it survives well in heat, and then it could be watered using those pipes. But over time, as they took root, it would lower the Sahara's temperature by 8 degrees Celsius, bring clouds in because of increased humidity to reflect the sun's rays back into space, cooling it down a little more, and the trees could capture 8 billion tons of carbon per year, which would be amazing. Of course, there's a few problems with this, the main problem being that it costs like $2 trillion. It's kind of a lot. We can even live underwater. It's expensive, but it is also possible. The technology exists to create underwater colonies now for like 100 people at a time. They use plans from like bunker-like habitats. But there are problems, you have different diseases when you live in closed environments like that. Not to mention you aren't gonna see as much of the sun, so you're gonna have problems with paleness and vitamin D production issues. A lot of aquanauts have reported their sense of taste diminishes, but these are things that we can overcome if it came to living underwater. What about, though, living in the sky? Not like the Jetsons, although that would be awesome. I'm talking more the sky of other planets. NASA is talking about building cities in the clouds of Venus using giant inflatable blimps, essentially. Of course, living in the skies of Venus sounds really cool. It's actually pretty warm and comfortable, not that different from Earth. The problem is you're still living on Venus, so you're gonna have to figure out how to get food and water. But we can do that. There's already plans to allow it to happen. We're in the early stages of populating Mars, and it's been shown that Martian soil might be able to support crops if we bring with us some bacteria that can also help support those crops. For more on that, of course, you can check out our series on space and also on Mars, with 2 separate ones. Don't worry, they're both awesome. But like I mentioned earlier, biological cities. This is super interesting. Professor of experimental architecture Rachel Armstrong wrote a book and describes what she called living architecture, where cities are built with semi-living materials that can repair their own cracks and heal themselves when damaged. Super interesting stuff. The city of Venice is sinking, and the pylons that the city is built on in the water, they need to be repaired and updated over time. She proposes saving Venice by engineering a living reef underneath the city. Essentially, you take calcium extruding protocells, latch those onto the city's existing piles. That will strengthen the existing piles and attract other living creatures whose shells would eventually turn into an actual ocean reef. But the ocean reef would then be supporting the city of Venice. Isn't that incredible? This is something that they can do there, but we can do this any number of different places on the planet and construct whole cities this way. But a really big problem about future cities is the same problem we're having in the cities of today, and that is disease. Luckily, we're learning more and more about genetics, we're understanding more about our bodies and how they work, and we've actually learned to hack diseases to fight for us. Of course, new diseases pop up as things mutate, but as medical technology gets better, and as we understand how they're popping up, we should be able to combat them more easily. The bottom line is, we're gonna always have risk. Regardless of where we live, regardless of how we survive, whether that risk is us or outside forces, it's going to exist. And as we master the survival game, we have to be more cognizant of our own impact and how we have to change to survive. It might be better to migrate from one place to another, as we always have, whether that means leaving our planet and going to a new place, or moving across the surface of our planet and letting certain parts rest. We're going to have to debate that in the future. Because eventually, as we fill the planet up, survival isn't just going to be, can we grow enough food? It's also going to be, can the planet support enough people? Scientists believe that Earth has about a maximum carrying capacity of between 9 and 10 billion people, and we are not far off from that right now. In a paper this year in Science Advances, it says we are losing vertebrates at 100 times faster a rate than we should be because the 6th mass extinction is upon us. If that continues, how are we going to survive? Some of these vertebrates help us survive, and without them, we'll have trouble. We know we're going to have to innovate to survive. And speaking of innovation, we'd like to thank our sponsors, the United States Air Force. They're powered by airmen, fueled by innovation, and they will hopefully help us solve many of these issues currently facing human survival now and in the future. Thanks to them again for helping make this episode possible. Subscribe to TestTube Plus so that you get all of our episodes every single day, and check out earlier episodes from this series on human survival. Thanks for watching TestTube Plus. We'll see you tomorrow.